Welcome to Roundtable Reads, where a group of professional and experienced actors perform a dramatic reading of original scripts. Tonight, the Antaries Prequels, Chapter 3, Ghost Stories. Our cast in order of appearance are Carol Lawton, Nick Buckland, Corey Minns,
Hi.
David John Clark, Rahima Russell, Tani Cupit, and Mark Healy. Our patrol ship crew, who you'll meet at the end of the episode, are Lockie Cupit, Paul Swanson, Rodney Twelftree, Peter Rogers, Carol Lawton, Bradley Martin, Corey Minns, and a special guest appearance later on by Danae Cupit. I'm Thorin Cupit, the writer, and I'll be reading the stage directions. Special thanks to AAA Talent for providing so much of the talent for this project. Link is above and in the description. This is a short chapter this week, so without further ado, Antares Prequel, Chapter 3, Ghost Stories. The camera starts black and we hear a slow, deep breath being drawn. The screen white, breath comes a gasp and then a cough. The white fades to an overexposed view of Nigel looking down at the camera.
Greetings, Andrew Harrow.
Then changes to Captain lying in his cryo chamber, blinking rapidly at the sudden light.
Nigel.
Captain sits up and looks round. The rest of the crew remain in their chambers.
What's going on?
The systems are designed to wake me should certain conditions arise. They have.
Conditions? What has happened? Have we reached the rim line?
Not yet, Andrew Harrow. We received a radio transmission from Endgate Station. It is for Captain's eyes, so I regret having to wake you also.
Captain rubs his face, dislodging one of the electrodes mounted to his forehead.
You woke me for a phone call.
In essence, yes. Did you book an early wake-up call?
Captain blinks in confused surprise.
But was that humour?
I do not believe so.
Captain grunts and climbs out of his chamber. He lurches sideways as his balance fails, but Nigel was ready and caught him easily. The captain rubs a cramp in his leg.
I'll grab a shirt and take it from my quarters.
The captain's quarters. Andrew sits in front of the screen, watching the Endgate logo spin. He runs his fingers through his hair. He hasn't bothered to shower, hoping that this can be quickly resolved and he can return to sleep. The logo is replaced by the face of a man in his 30s, red hair already beginning to recede. He wore the uniform of an Endgate traffic controller. The signal is very garbled.
Endgate Station to Antares, over.
Andrew Harrow, Captain of the Antaries, reading you at 0.3 of 5, over.
Captain Harrow. Sorry to wake you. We have a job we think your crew can help with. Bit of an emergency on our side, so we can offer significant pay for your trouble. Sending a contract over now.
The image drops out to static as the data stream was shared with the file. It recovers mid-conversation.
I'll look over it. I'll stay on the line so we can get it sorted immediately.
Captain pulls up the data file on another window and skims through. He switches back to the video link.
You want us to detour to station R32 and perform the refit?
R32 is an old relay station from before the rim line reached this far out. It's been retrofitted for short hop refueling and emergency repair use, as well as the single point relay for communicating beyond the rim line. Most of it was automated now, though it still had the legacy systems to support a crew.
All stuff our tech would have trained to do, and I'll admit we could do with the pay.
Well, there's a bit of a rush, and Antares just happens to be the closest registered ship right now.
Lucky us. But surely this is a scheduled repairs. Haven't you got a team out already?
Oh, we did have. They dropped off all the parts to do the refit, but then just left. Cancelled the contract with penalties and left us hanging. We need to get the station uplink sorted, or we risk losing contact with all our eastern fringe worlds.
Cancelled with penalties?
It was not unheard of, but there is massive cut to any paid contracts, even if you are considered.
What could have happened to make that the preferable option? Surely they gave a reason. I'm unwilling to put my crew or ship in avoidable danger, no matter how good the pay is.
Depends on whether you believe ghost stories. Will you take the contract?
Corridor C1, outside the crew quarters. Nigel stands patiently beside the door to the captain's quarters. The door opens, the captain steps into the corridor, holding his Comfort 1M shower kit and towel.
Wake the others.
Captain moves off to the shower while Nigel moves back towards medical. The Antaries is cruising under her own power through space. In the mess hall, cargo, tech, Nigel and security are now enjoying a meal. The feeling is genial and there is a light banter about the quality of food and who has the worst quarters on the ship.
It's all right for you midgets, but for me the room's tiny. I can't even stretch out on the bed straight.
Maybe if you didn't eat so much of the noodles. Look at Ravi, she's wasting away.
I think that's preferable. I didn't realise how bad this food was till we had to spend so much time eating it.
That's why we're being paid so much for the job.
That is not the reason for the contract value. Standard contract weightings include consideration for time spent in cryogenic suspension due to the risks and the impact on the crew's private life.
This is a short hop, so there's no point using the sleep pods, so why the high pay rate?
It is commensurate with your skill level.
It's hazard pay.
While there is some risk involved in the repairs, the task should not prove noticeably hazardous for a person with Ravi Band's level of training.
The captain arrives and moves to get a coffee while he speaks.
Ian says we'll be at station R32 in just over 5 hours. Eat up. First team is going suited.
Really? Does that mean we need to do the pre-breath and everything?
You know it.
Captain points to a dumpling in front of Ravi.
You going to eat that?
Ravi shakes her head. Captain grabs up the morsel before she can change her mind.
You know, in the movies, they just throw on a spacesuit and go jumping out the airlock at the drop of a hat.
Actors can do that. We can't.
A sudden memory flashes a shark fin in the sea of Captain's memories.
I've seen what happens when you don't take the right precautions with pressure, and
Captain shakes off the memory, but no one pushes him on the topic. Antares approaches the space station. It makes minor adjustments to its role before docking with a dull, metallic plane. Just inside the airlock of the Antares is the suit room, a room that houses the crew's EVA spacesuits. At one end is the door to the ship, the other a heavy-set bulkhead that leads to the airlock. Each crew member has a locker and suit arranged around a central octagonal bench. While the room is large enough to accommodate all 6 crew in an emergency, like most change rooms, it feels cramped with more than 2 people. Tech, security and Nigel are all suiting up, helping each other don their suits, while bulky the suits were less cumbersome than the early era outfits. Padded mesh act as basic protection against abrasion with gloves, boots, knee pads and elbows made with reinforced fibres to protect the areas more likely to get impacted.
You looked at the list of repairs?
Of course. Waste reclamation, flush and clean, power relay module replacement, internal communicators, degas, realign environmental controls, calibration.
Security stomps his boot into place and then jumps a couple of times to let the suit settle on his frame.
Why would an automated station need half of that stuff?
It wasn't always automated. When R32 was first commissioned, it had a 5-man crew. As the automation improved, the crew numbers were reduced until they were no longer required.
Can you imagine being the last one of the crew to remain on board? All alone, the station full of AI, a week from any sort of human contact?
Yeah, thank you for that nightmare.
Enough to send anyone bonkers.
Tech picks up a helmet from the top of her locker.
It's all right for you. I'm the one who goes out the lock and does the module replacements of the hull. All you need to do is the hot swaps inside.
Security checks his sidearm, which he always carries on the outside of his suit, just in case.
There's a day's work at the most. You do what you need to do, and when we can all go home and get paid.
Tech checks her tool belt and moves to stand by the inner hatch, where the others are already assembling. Nigel moves to the hatch control, typing in the security code. The bulkhead unlocks, and Nigel pulls the heavy metal door open to allow the others through. In the Antares airlock is a long tube with a bench seat and harness for 3 people on each side. Handrails line the roof and walls, as it's expected the crew may be in 0G when using this room. Each end of the tube is dominated by a heavy bulkhead. Nigel, security and tech are sitting in their suits and helmets. They've been here for a while now. Nav's voice comes over the comms.
Morning all, this is your ground buddy. How do you read?
Loud and clear, Ian.
Confirming 3-hour pre-breath and 30-minute suit breath.
Roger that. We are holding at 70 kp. On your DCM, switch power to bat, badger your switch throws, and expect a warning tone.
The trio are already adjusting the controls on their chest plates, well aware of the process. A light on each chest plate switches from red to green, followed by a short tone.
E1 to bat.
E2 to bat.
E3 to bat.
Nigel, on the IUA, switch power for EVI through EV3 to off.
Nigel stands, reaches above each of the crew and toggles the switch on their UIA till the power feed shows red.
E1, E2 and E3 are off. EMU lights are off.
Copy, LEDs are off. You can now demate your SCU from your DCM, install the DCM cover, and stow the SCU in the pouch.
Security and tech are already halfway through unhooking their suits from the wall feeds. Only Nigel waits for Ian to complete the instruction.
Check your DCM is blank and bite off.
Each look at the unit on their wrist.
Blank. No bite for 1.
Blank. No bite for 2.
On the bridge, Ian is watching the team on a small monitor. He can just make out the 3 figures. Security gives a thumb up.
Blank, no bite for 3.
Check your temperature control valve as desired between 3 and maximum C. Then you are clear for final depressurization.
Inside the airlock, an orange rotating light on the roof comes on.
Warning. Airlock protocols engaging in 3, 2, 1.
There is a hiss of air which lasts for a while.
I hate this bit.
As the noise fades, we can hear the breathing of the people in the suits.
Depressurization is complete. Suits should be at 29.6 kpd. Report your suit pressure gauge.
Pressure point 3 on 1.
Pressure point 3 on 2.
Pressure point 3 on 3.
Umbilical is connected and secure. Thermal cover is popped. You have a go to egress the airlock.
Security and tech stand up and take hold of a strap as Nigel moves forward and releases the outer door hatch. The airlock swings outward. Nigel, followed by security, and then tech with her toolkit, move out through the outer door. In the Antaries monitor room, Nav is watching a set of 3 small screens. They show suit monitor cameras of the team as they move into the station's access corridor. By them, Nav is monitoring their progress. The images are jumbled and the only light is from the held torches. The audio keeps cutting in and out as the Vox key on the suit comms picks up the voices. David's monitor shows his suit torch playing over the back of Nigel in front of him.
No alarms or security.
Tech is at the back, her monitor showing 2 suited figures in front of her, disappearing into the dark interior of the station.
Internal door is still open. External door override must be linked to both doors. Good way to get someone killed.
I'm shocked. Modern protocols require active alarms and permission sets from...
Yeah, well, these systems are not modern. That is part of why we are doing a new install and refit. You still reading us, Ian?
I am, but you're breaking up. I'm getting a lot of static.
We're in. Seals are good.
Ian presses the headset to his ear, trying to hear over the static.
Once we get the pressure up in here, you guys can cross without suits. I'm sealing the outer door.
Tech's vision turns from Nigel and security to the door control. She keys in a code and watches as the outer door slides ponderously closed. When she turns back, her torchlight shines over the back of 3 suited figures, not 2, but she doesn't notice.
It's like a fridge in here.
The monitors and radio begin to crackle with static.
It's for only...
Say again, Nigel?
atmosphere to...
See my breath?
10-9 that? Something about breath?
Breath, not you sleaze.
Nav takes off the headset in frustration and slaps the monitor.
Where... Next section.
Station environmental control. Nigel, security and tech move out of the corridor through a door to a small utilitarian room. There's no sign of the other figure who was in the corridor. A row of 6 glass-fronted lockers stand against one wall. The opposite wall is a mass of pipes, gauges, levers and valves. Apart from the pipes, which are corroded brass colour, the rest of the room is in muted greys. Tech moves to a gauge, shining a light on it.
Air is breathable. Pressure is at 101 kp, but not fresh.
Tech takes off her helmet, followed by the other 2. Security coughs slightly as the smell hits him.
Smells like old sewage. At least it is warmer in here.
Tech moves over to the panel by the door and the room's emergency lights kick in. A 4th suited figure appears behind Nigel. Tech gasps in surprise. The suit is suspended on hooks inside one of the glass lockers.
That scared the crap out of me. For a moment, I thought there was still someone on the station. Why is that still here?
Tech reads a small metal plaque affixed to the front.
Technician Serge Macnost.
Serge Machnost was the last of the permanent crew stationed here. He was reported missing 52 years ago after he failed to return from an unscheduled EVA.
But his suit is still here.
Yes, he went outside without a suit. We should power up the station and let the rest of the crew come across.
Right. Nigel, get up operations and crank the juice. Ravi, check we have air in all sections. You've got 1 hour before I start bringing the others over.
Nigel moves off. Tech is still looking at the suit. Security shudders.
You know, you hear reports.
Really? Ghost stories?
Doesn't it creep you out?
There's something about standing over my father's fresh corpse that makes us far less impressive by comparison.
Security doesn't know what to make of what Tech said. He stammers and hurries away.
Let's just get on with it.
Security moves back towards the corridor. Tech starts to adjust valves and throw some switches, checking readouts. There is a flutter of power and she shivers involuntarily. Slow squeaking can be heard. Tech stops with a frown and looks around her. At first she can't find a source. Then she sees a valve which is slowly screwing itself closed again. She watches it, fascinated for a moment, then grips it and opens it fully. As she does so, the lights stop fluttering. She watches for a moment to make sure the valve is secure, then returns to her work. Station R32 Operations. This area is designed for one person to be able to monitor and control the whole station. A bank of monitors occupies one wall, while a series of consoles are set in a semicircle around a single chair. Nigel arrives and moves to the seat. She begins to type, and we see a monitor turn on showing Tech and the environment controls, and another showing security by the airlock. Nigel turns away from the monitors and continues typing. As she does, we see lights come on in rooms shown in the various monitors. Since Nigel is not watching, it does not notice that for a moment a figure is silhouetted in a corridor, lit from behind, and as the light comes on in that corridor, the figure vanishes. This happens in the background while Nigel is talking on the radio.
Nigel to Antaries. We have power and atmosphere. You can come across when you are ready.
Roger that, Nigel. We'll see you shortly.
Nigel stands and exits the room. In the access corridor, security is standing in his suit, but with his helmet off. The inner door opens and Captain, Cargo and Nav step through. None of them are wearing suits and all respond to the smell in the air.
Oh, it smells like a car park in here.
Ravi's stirring the tanks, but I think we're stuck with it till she can get outside and replace the waste reclamation module.
Ugh, nothing like breathing in some other crew's waste.
What's our status?
All the upgrade gear is stored and looks fine. Ravi's just passing her eye over it.
What about the station itself?
It's about as bad as you'd expect. Previous operator was so keen to be out of this place, he left without putting his suit on.
Security had meant it as a joke, but the ashen look on Captain's face kills the moment. Nav spoke to break the uncomfortable silence.
I'll get up to operations then. I can monitor the flows, but we are going to need someone handling the power regulators.
Well, don't everyone else volunteer for the job?
Yes, we all know you are the only one who does any real work on the ship. You keep telling us.
Can we use the refuel ports?
Part of the contract payment was use of station facilities. You'll need to operate them manually, and we will need to tell Nigel on the ship to handle that end. Otherwise, we can afford to restock.
Tech arrives, helmet in hand.
Hey ho! You heard that the station is haunted? According to David, the previous operator is still on the station. That's why they're paying us so much to come out here.
What?
Moon's haunted.
Not what I said.
You'll need to move the ship. I need to get out this access port to do the repairs.
Well, Nigel can do a short hop like that. It can't do long haulers or I'd be out of a job.
We already trust them with too much. This is the thing we trust with our lives. This is the thing that was quite capable of grabbing us and simply hurling us out of the airlock. Nothing we could do to stop it.
It can't. It's got hard code programming that...
Well, I'm going to go and get some food. Something more than a half-eaten dumpling.
Captain and Nav move off down the corridor. Security suddenly turns to Tech.
Hey, Ravi, how badly off are the waste reclamation systems?
You want a technical breakdown? Really?
No, I just need to know what is working and what isn't.
Well, the atmosphere scrubbers are a big thing, really. Some issues with solid waste from the mess hall, but other than that,
So the toilets are working.
yes, I believe.
Excuse me.
Security rushes off, needing to be elsewhere in a hurry. Tech smiles to herself and heads to the airlock, placing her helmet on. Exterior, space. The Antares disengages from the docking door and moves to one side. An umbilical arm attaches to the fuel port on the underside. In station operations, Nav arrives at the control room and sits down. He flicks a few controls until one of the monitors comes up with the Antares at the fueling port.
Antaries to station. We are green for fueling. Over.
Nav picks up the headset and speaks into it.
Roger that, Antares. Stand by. Over.
Takes off the headset and slides on the chair to a set of controls for refueling. They're quite complex. Nav goes to push buttons but hesitates and looks suddenly around.
Manual. There must be a...
He sees a high shelf of books and manuals and rolls over to it. He stands and starts to leaf through the spines.
If I were a refueling manual, where would I hide? Ah!
Nav pulls the book down and begins to leaf through the pages. He glances over at the controls and consults a diagram. Leaving the book open on the desk, he rolls back to the controls and begins to push switches. Sound of pumps can be heard in the distance. He picks up the headset again.
Station to Antares. Confirm fueling. Over.
For a moment, everything in the room goes dark, except for the monitors, which fill with static. The lights return and Nav looks around, but everything seems in order. He rubs his arms against a sudden chill and flicks the radio again.
Station to Antares. Confirm fueling. Over.
Fueling is go station. Over.
Nav breathes out in a slow sigh. He turns back to the manual, but it's gone from the desk. Frowning, he glances around, looks under and even stands to look behind the console. There's no sign. He's now eye level with the shelf of manuals and happens to glance up at the manual back in its place. Nav frowns and half reaches for it, then just shrugs and turns back to the controls, switching the comms to a different channel. The monitor changes to show the outer hull and a small figure making its way carefully along the guide rail. Behind the suited figure floats a large device, a replacement power regulation module. The thing looks like it weighs more than Tech, but floats like a balloon in space behind her.
How are we going, Ravi?
Outside the station, Tech is fully suited and crouched on the outer hull of the ship. She has a heavy metal box tethered to her waist, but it's floating behind her.
I have reached the primary power regulator.
She attaches her guide line to the hook on the hull and pulls a tool from her belt. The end of the tool matches a pair of large bolts holding a panel onto the station hull.
I am undoing the regulator housing.
Slowly and precisely, she attaches the tool to the bolt. She turns it exactly 3 times. The bolt comes loose, but is held in the housing plate and does not float free. Tech moves on to the second bolt.
Cargo here, Ravi. I've switched to the batteries. Main regulator is offline. Power is going to be a bit flaky till you get the new unit in.
The second bolt comes free, and Tech reverses the tool and uses a hook attachment to pull the housing open on a pair of hinges.
Roger that.
Inside the housing is a unit much like the one floating behind Tech, but obviously older. Inside the station bathroom, a very small room with a small metal basin, a mirror, and a single toilet cubicle attached. There's barely room here for 2 people to stand close. Security steps out of the cubicle. He's no longer wearing his suit and is doing up his belt, and we can hear the toilet flush. He moves to the basin, turns on the water, and begins to wash his hands. A reflection in the basin catches his eye. In the reflection, we can see security and another figure in a spacesuit behind him, but the image is so distorted by the metal that we can't make out who it is. The lights flutter. Security turns and looks around the empty bathroom. We see his breath is coming out as fog, it's so cold. Seeing nothing, he turns back to look in the mirror while he continues to wash his hands, half expecting to see a person in the reflection, but there's no one. He looks down at his hands in the basin, which are now covered in blood. With a cry, security leaps back from the basin and holds up his hands to examine. The flickering lights settle, and they're now only clean and wet, no sign of blood. Confused, he looks back to the sink, which is also flowing clear liquid. He reaches out, switches off the tap, and moves hurriedly from the room. Outside the station, Tech is slotting the new device into the hull of the ship. The old one now floats behind her. There's a click as it finds its place.
That's it. Bring the power back.
There is a hum and the unit lights up.
Power looks good. I'm getting fluctuations internally though. Cargo, can you lock that down?
I'm on it.
Tech reaches for a tool and closes the hatch.
I'll square this away and move on to the waste reclamation.
In the station's mess hall. The mess hall is a roomy affair, expected to accommodate a dozen or so people. There are a couple of eating tables on one side, a table tennis table on the other, some lounges between this, and some lounges between. This is obviously where crews are stopping over would be expected to spend most of their time. Near the tables is a small kitchenette with a food dispenser. The captain is going through a handful of cutlery looking for a knife and fork. There's a ding to let him know that his food is ready, and he places the remainder of the cutlery on the bench as he moves hungrily over to the dispenser. Opening the door to the dispenser, he pulls out a plate of hot food. He sniffs it, appreciatively, closing the dispenser door. Captain moves to the nearest table and sits down with his back to the kitchenette. As he does, the lights begin to flicker. He glances up at them in annoyance and is about to tuck into the food when we hear a scrape and a clatter. He turns around with a frown. One by one, we see the cutlery the captain left on the counter slide across and fall onto the floor. The captain pulls his radio.
Ian, are there any faults with the artificial gravity system?
Only static is heard in response. The cutlery is all on the floor now. Still looking at it, he lifts his fork to begin eating. Food on the plate is rotten and mouldy. The captain slowly lowers his fork and picks up the tray, studying its contents. He turns to take it to the waste system and almost collides with a man in a spacesuit. The food falls to the floor now perfectly fine, and from a wide shot we can see the captain is again alone in the room and the lights are no longer flashing. In the station environmental controls, Cargo is working on the valves and controls. It's relatively strenuous and she's struggling with a particularly stubborn lever. She calls it several names and eventually it gives. She picks up her radio.
How's that?
No, we've lost power to the air cyclers.
Cargo lowers the radio and swears to herself, then speaks back into the radio.
Hey, hang on, let me try something else.
Putting the radio back on her belt, she pushes the lever back to its original position and tries a series of switches. The lights flicker and she looks at them in frustration. She pulls her radio again.
Don't tell me. Life support now? Temperature here just dropped.
As she's talking, we see movement behind her. The lights are still blinking so we don't see clearly, but a figure in a spacesuit moves past the door along the access corridor. She turns just in time to see his back move past the lip of the door.
Dave?
Putting a radio on her belt, she moves quickly to the corridor.
Dave, did you want
Cargo steps into the empty corridor and looks down towards the airlock.
something?
She looks around, but not quite able to understand where the figure could have gone.
David?
She takes a step into the corridor, and now she can see a suited figure in the airlock. It's looking at her, and behind it, the outer lock is open to space. The lights flutter, and we see Cargo's breath fog. There is a noise, and the door to the environment room slides shut, and with an anonymous click, seals itself. Cargo rushes to it, but it refuses to open to her. Glancing back down the corridor, she can see the figure is operating the controls inside the airlock. There is a rushing noise of air escaping the room. Cargo clutches at her throat. She grabs up her radio, but with no air to speak with, the inner door to the airlock swings open and a booted foot steps through. Cargo collapses to the floor, clutching at her throat. The suited figure appears at her side and bends down. In station operations, Nav is switching off the fueling controls when he hears the radio.
Ian, there's malfunction in the life support in the access corridor. Paula is suffocating.
Nav glances at the monitor, which shows the access corridor. Cargo is thrashing on the floor next to two suited figures.
Shit, balls, crap.
Nav rushes over to some controls and starts pressing them as quickly as he can amidst a flow of profanity. In the access corridor, Cargo is on the floor with Tech crouched over her. There's no one else in the corridor. There is a sudden noise of air rushing in again, and Cargo starts gasping loudly for breath before her head falls back hard and she passes out.
What about now?
That's got it. Unseal the doors. We need to get her inside.
There is a click as the door to the environmental control unseals and opens again.
I'll get Nigel to bring the Antaries round. Our medbay is better than anything they have here.
Tech hooks her arms under Cargo and, with strength that belies her size, drags her out of the corridor. In the Antares medical bay, Cargo wakes with a start and a coughing fit. She has an air mask on which she claws at. It's removed and we see she's being cared for by Nigel while the captain, security and Tech look on.
Where is he?
Who? Ian?
No, the guy, the one in the suit.
Oxygen deprivation can cause hallucinations. When the airlock cycle evacuated the atmosphere from the inner corridor, her senses were confused.
Why would anyone design a system that pumped the air out of the corridor?
Same designers who linked the power regulator through the internal lighting. This was built before most standards we have today, and as the station's functions expanded, not all systems got upgraded.
Under the new corporation guidelines, this sort of accident would be impossible.
Thank you, Nigel. How are you now, Cargo?
Headache, my ribs ache.
The sky, the one you saw.
Thought she saw. It was an asphyxiation hallucination.
Except that I saw something too, in the mess hall.
And I thought, well,
You all saw something? Too?
for a moment, maybe.
Paula Warren also has high levels of chemicals in her blood from hypersleep. It was probably these that helped your body survive the vacuum. It is probable that entire crew have been experiencing hallucinations. You were all in a heightened state due to the unreliability of the power systems and atmospherics.
What with the atmospheric recyclers being offline, I certainly didn't see anything, and I had clean air in my suit. You and your bloody ghost stories.
Look, felt real.
Hallucinations often do. It is not often that a person experiencing them can differentiate.
Well, whatever the cause, the repairs are complete and Ian is finalising the pre-flight check. We're done here. Cargo, when you're feeling up to it, there's a mountain of paperwork that needs to be done on your near-death experience.
Cargo groans and lies back on the bed while the rest file out. From the station mess hall, we pan across the empty mess through large windows through which we can see the Antares undocking. In the reflection, we can now also see a man wearing a spacesuit watching the ship leave. Though there is no figure in the mess to cast the reflection. Power flickers and turns off, killing the reflection and just leaving the image of the Antares flying away. Briefing room, patrol ship. This is a small room for the crew to prepare for missions. Several chairs sit facing a small lectern. Lieutenant Cupid, 2IC of the patrol ship, stands behind the lectern, with Artie, the ship's artificial. At one side, sitting in the chairs, are many of the patrol officers, including Corporal Punishment, Private Parts, Private Swanson, Private Twelftree, Private Rogers, and Private Survivor.
All right, people. This is a search and recover op. Our target is at the base of a newly cut mine shaft. Refer to the diagram in your mission brief. We have specialist equipment, so get yourself familiar with it before we reach the rim line. Any questions?
Why send a patrol ship and not the regular transports?
The person funding this doesn't want news out and doesn't trust the corporation crews to keep quiet.
Since when do we do jobs for private citizens?
Since they become rich or powerful enough to influence those in the chain of command.
Won't this leave the shipping lanes vulnerable?
There is a small chance that some space debris will enter the lanes in our absence, but the chance is so remote Endgate Control have decided to let it pass.
Will we be expecting hostile resistance?
Look, the colony administrator knows about it, but none of the colonists do. We go in at night, we go dark. No civilian casualties. Got it? We have ghosts in the night. All right, people, move out and prep. Rim line in 36 hours.
In empty space, we see the debris flying towards the Antares aft section. Collision imminent.
Collision alert. Collision.
The moment of impact cuts the computer voice. On the bridge, Nav is thrown violently to the side of his chair. Sparks fly up from the console. In the cargo bay, Nigel and Cargo are thrown to the floor. The crates topple and fall on Cargo. In engineering, the lights go out and there is a shower of spark, and Tech cries out in the darkness. The hull of the Antares can be seen with a series of tears along one module. Although we can't hear anything, a stray piece of debris can be seen flapping wildly in the escaping breeze. On the bridge.
Unable to confirm, mess is unoccupied. Proceed. Y/N.
If I seal the mess hall, anyone stuck in there will die. But if I don't, we all die.
In the cargo bay.
I am also very sorry now to have to throw you out of the airlock.
Corridor C2 is almost completely flooded. Security is gulping for air from the last few inches left. Office waiting room.
The Antares has had, a half dozen cargo masters and twice as many technicians, and every time it feels like this time, this is the right crew. This time it works.
And then one of them leaves.
In the cargo bay. At the far wall, the damaged cable next to the burst gas pipe sparks once, twice, then there's an eruption of flame. Nigel stands immobile as the flame erupts from the far side of the cargo bay and rushes towards it. For a moment, we get a close-up of its impassive face as the red flames illuminate it.
Fuck.
Flames engulf Nigel.
And now, some lore for those who want more. The patrol ship crew are actually most of the film crew from the movie. The patrol ship captain, unfortunately, could not be included. He has sadly passed away.
Subscribe to our channel and hit the little bell too for more episodes when they come through.